morning, everybody, and welcome to the Macmillan Education Iberia Spotlight on Academy Stars. My name is Louise Connolly. I'm the Events Manager at Macmillan Education Iberia, and I would like to welcome you all and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us this morning. I hope you're all well. And I hope that the course is going as well as possible, given the circumstances. And I would like to say just a huge well done to you all for coping with this tremendous year that it has been, coping with the unprecedented circumstances, and for doing such a wonderful job to keep students, young learners, whether they be young learners or teens or adults or whichever students you are teaching, to keep their education going. So well done to you all. And now I would like to introduce Skye. Skye, good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
It's a real pleasure. Good morning. Skye, well, what can I say? He's an actor, he's a director, he's a teacher trainer, he's a teacher, he's multi-talented, and he's been collaborating with Macmillan now for many years. As a teacher trainer, he's given theatre shows, amazing theatre shows and storytelling sessions, as well as cultural sessions to young learners and teens, and teacher training, methodological sessions to teachers, principally teachers who are teaching young learners and primary age students, and particularly on the topics of fomenting creativity and critical thinking and motivating and encouraging students to participate. So his talk this morning is called Every Child Can Be a Star. Over to you, Skye.
Thank you, Louise, and also thank you everybody for joining us today. Again, taking time out of your busy schedules, and I have prepared a bunch of ideas working with the Academy Stars series, and I hope that they are useful, practical, and that you can start using these activities as soon as tomorrow or next week or whenever you see fit. Okay, so my talk is called Every Child Can Be a Star. And as Louise explained, one of the interactions is a poll. And I'm just curious, I'm going to start my talk today with a poll. And I assume everyone watching me out there in the world is familiar with the Academy Stars series. So my first poll question is, what features of Academy Stars do you use regularly? And I have 5 options: the Be a Star activities, Learning to Learn activities, Graphic Grammar, Think About It activities, or Act It Out activities. All of these are part of the Academy Stars book series, and I'm curious to see which option is the most popular right now.
Okay, so the answers are coming in quickly. We seem to be at 50% at the moment for Be a Star activities, Graphic Grammar, and Act It Out. Okay, it's going down a little bit. 50% Graphic Grammar, Be a Star activities, 38%, and Act It Out activities, 33%, and we've got 11% currently at Think About It activities. So it's kind of going up and down, but Graphic Grammar seems to be at the head with 55%, now 57. So in summary, Graphic Grammar followed by Be a Star activities, followed by Think About It activities, followed by Act It Out activities. Thank you, everybody.
Great. So I'm glad to see that at least one person is familiar with all of the different features. And I also agree that graphic grammar probably is the most salient, the biggest idea from this series that stands out. So it doesn't surprise me that that is the choice that also stands out. But I'm going to talk briefly about each of these features to make sure that you understand their uses and their benefits. So I've done a bit of mm, preparation. Today, what we're going to look at is these 5 categories. First, we're going to talk about developing some critical thinking skills in our students. Then we're going to look at the learning to learn activities, which according to the poll was less popular. So I'm glad that I have the opportunity to explain that to those of you possibly who use it less. Then we're going to talk about ways to increase students' motivation. As Louise said in her introduction, it has been a challenging year, and I know that participation motivation is a big issue, so I have some activities to encourage that. Specifically, the next topic, speaking and communication role play activities. As Louise explained, I am principally a theater teacher. I teach theater to kids, to adults, so I would like to share some of my activities and games with you. And finally, at the end of today's talk, I'm going to talk about activities you can do with reading. In the Academy Stars series, you have different kinds of fiction, nonfiction, different kinds of texts, but there are certain practices that we should be using regardless of the text. And so I'm going to give you some ideas with those. So starting with these activities that I'm presenting, some of you, I'm sure, are teaching little kids. Some of you are teaching older kids. Some of you are teaching all ages. So I have tried to include a variety of activities which can be adjusted according to your student's age. And these activities can also be simplified or extended depending on your student's English level and ability. So really, you can pick and choose and make them more difficult or more mature if you have older students. And I've also included some ideas for face-to-face learning and virtual learning, depending on whatever your situation may be in this year. So the first category, the first idea I want to talk about are critical thinking skills. And we're going to start with a have your say. So I think a chat box option should appear on your screen. And the question is, what are some critical thinking skills we would like to encourage in our students? So just brainstorming a quick idea. When I say critical thinking skills, what am I talking about? What are these critical thinking skills?
Great. Okay, yes, that question is now on your screen. What are some critical thinking skills we'd like to encourage? So you can write short answers, as I said at the beginning. 1 word, 2 words. There's no need to write long answers. Yes, and we've got one coming. We've got one in self-evaluation. Nice. Yeah.
They're
And
coming in
creative
slowly.
thinking. Yeah, well, it is the morning time. Um, and well, I say a couple of
Sure,
answers?
please.
Yeah, what I would think, well, the ability, creative thinking, the problem solving,
Yes.
presumably is important. Yeah, deduction from examples given. That's another person who has said emotional intelligence in general. Great. Eliciting uses of grammar.
Great.
Okay. Uh, self evaluating
Evaluating
other
others.
options.
Hmm.
That's important. Considering other opinions, comparing, contrasting, I imagine as well
Good.
there. Excellent. Okay.
Great.
That looks good.
So
So you've got quite
just
a few there.
Yeah, just to get your minds working, some of the ideas I thought of, critical thinking skills. And again, it depends on the age and the ability of your students. Obviously, very young students, you start with more basic skills, and as they get older, you can introduce more complicated or higher level thinking. But I was thinking problem solving, which we said, predicting. So when you look at a text, looking at the clues, making hypotheses, what is this text about? Analyzing information, a very common skill that our students need to learn. Inferring from textual clues. So sometimes things are not explicitly said, but you can infer, you can interpret data, whether it be in graph form, you have pie graphs, you have charts, you have maps. That is a critical thinking skill that we want to encourage. Drawing conclusions. So our students will read a text and then make a conclusion. Evaluating results. That can also be evaluating others' opinions, comparing what you think to someone else, and the ability to explain a concept, to be able to understand it enough that you can then explain it to your classmate or to someone else in the room. So these are just some examples of the skills that the material in Academy Stars is helping to develop. We're going to look at the first, which is predicting. So any text you're reading, anytime you're reading a text, it's great to ask some questions. This is an example from Academy Stars 4. The story they're going to read, the fictional story, is The Prince and the Pauper. And the very first thing it says is look at the title and pictures. So before you dive into the reading, you're looking at the visual cues, the visual clues. So the title, the pictures, and then you answer the questions. Who is the prince and who is the pauper? And how do you know based on the pictures, right? The pauper is wearing poor clothing. The prince is wearing probably a crown or expensive robes. Next question, who is poor and lives in a house? These questions are also introducing the key vocabulary the students will then find in the text. Number 2, it says scan the text, underline the new words from lesson 1. So in the first part of this unit, they've learned some new vocabulary. Those words are then used in the text. They're being recycled. They're being used in a real in a different situation. And finally, they read the text and they circle the themes. So a critical thinking skill is identifying the theme. And of course, we have friendship, adventure, animals, different lives, holidays, and they have to infer from the text what the themes are. So you can see a lot of critical thinking skills are being explored just even before you read the text and then while you read the text. Another problem-solving activity, I think it's great for communication, for higher level thinking, is bringing in riddles or codes or any activity where some students have some information and other students have other information and they have to ask questions and try to understand the story. I don't know if you're familiar with these common riddles where one person describes a situation and then people ask questions, normally yes or no questions, to try to determine what happened. A famous one is Romeo and Juliet were found dead on the floor. What happened? And so they're asking, is there blood? Was there a knife? Everyone gets confused because you say Romeo and Juliet, but the true story is Romeo and Juliet are goldfish and they were in a bowl and the bowl fell and broke and there's water on the floor. But people have to ask questions to try to determine what happened. If you Google riddles or question riddles, you'll find dozens of these examples. When I was a kid, I also read these books called Encyclopedia Brown. There were these mysteries. It's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes for kids. Another series is called 2-Minute Mysteries. 2-Minute Mysteries, again, something happened, and how does the detective know? Using observation, using clues. Here I have an example from Pinterest, simply, can you crack the code? So there's a symbol that represents a letter. I have an example from Academy Stars. After students have read this poem called The Colors of Life, also from Academy Stars 4, they learn about a secret code, and then this is the Be a Star activity. They need to write their own message to a friend using the code, okay? Another example where some people have some information and some people have other information is spot the difference, which you can use with the two pictures. You cut it in half and give one half to one student, one half to the other. And this is great to practice there is, there are, has got, hasn't got, because you're trying to discover the differences. So you can say, the boy has got a pail, and the other student with the other picture can say, what boy? It's a girl. A girl has got it. Okay, so that's one difference, boy and girl. There are 3 pigs. Yes, in my picture, there are 3 pigs. The tree has got leaves. Oh, in my picture, the tree hasn't got leaves. And again, they're communicating, they're using the language. You can also use this as a drama activity. I do this in my children's theater classes, not with pictures, but with the children themselves. I'll take 4 students, put them at the front of the room. Everyone else is watching and memorizing what they're wearing. That's an observation activity. And then I have all of the students at their desks. They put their heads down, and I make 2 or 3 changes. I have one of the children roll up their sleeves, or the ponytail's on the side, or they move the ring to the other hand. And I do very subtle differences. And then I say to the class, okay, open your eyes. And they have to spot the difference. Or you have someone leave the room and they come back, and you can move things in the room. It doesn't necessarily have to be the children, but anything with observation and memory, it's great for critical thinking skills. Questions. So the Academy Star series gives you questions to ask, and you have closed questions, the yes or no questions, but the better questions for higher thinking are the open questions, the who, what, where, why, how. So here we have some examples after reading a text. Questions that begin, who didn't have any friends? Why did Edward go to find food? Why did the servant? Okay, and at the end, it says, discuss with a friend. How do the people in the story feel at different times? It gives you some examples to model, but the idea is they're inferring, they're interpreting, they're trying to put the information together and they're answering questions like why and how, which stimulate higher level thinking. Now, asking the right questions doesn't necessarily have to come from the book. It can also come from the teacher in the class. So when a student makes an observation or makes a statement, you, the teacher, can ask, could you give me an example? Is there any other way to look at this? You're teaching the class that you don't only need one answer, but there are maybe multiple opinions, multiple possibilities. When Juan gives an answer, then you ask another child, do you agree with Juan? Why? All right, you're trying to get them to interact with each other, to evaluate, as someone said in the Have Your Say, the ability to respond to and evaluate the other people's work, the other people's opinions. And make sure you ask questions both before and after doing an activity. So we're going to look at this article, it's taken from Academy Stars 3, and I want to see if you can come up with some examples. What questions could you ask to introduce this text? Now, you don't have time, and I don't think it's feasible for you to actually read the text itself, but what clues do you see in the title and in the pictures that would allow you to ask some general questions to your class? Imagine you're going to read this page in Academy Stars 3, and you're going to come up with some questions. So please use the chat box option and think of a question for this text?
Great. Yes. So people are already answering, Sky. We've got, for
Great.
example, do you know what a safari is? Have
Mm-hmm.
you ever been on a safari? What can you see in the pictures? Look at the pictures. Can you tell me what is the main topic of the text? What's your favorite animal? Have you ever been in Africa? Where can you find these animals? Do you like animals?
Great.
What animals would you expect to see in a safari? Which rare animals have you seen and where? Have you ever been close to wild animals? Lots of ideas coming through.
The-
Fantastic.
These are
Thank you
amazing. These
very
are
much.
great. It's exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. And they can be very general, like what animals have you seen or do you like animals? I love it. All of these questions are valid. It doesn't have to be super specific to the actual text. You're just trying to, well, you're both trying to get them, you're getting them, trying to get them to associate what they already know and prep their mind, getting them ready, but also trying to get them interested in the topic. We're trying to create expectation, create some ganas, like they want to read the text. Perfect. Do you recognize any of these animals? Another question, which no one has said, what kind of text is this? Maybe it's a little more advanced, but it looks almost like it's a website, right? Because I see at the top there's a little arrow and you can click home, about us, family safari,
exactly.
night safari. They're trying to represent a website as if you're going to go on a safari and you're reading about the possible safari options, like it's a travel agency, a travel company. So you could also bring in
Yes.
that element. Okay, so great. We have some great questions. So another topic I want to quickly touch on is something called productive struggle. What it means is don't try to help them too quickly. When you ask any question, whether you think it's difficult or not, allow them a little time to struggle. If you provide the answer too quickly, you're eliminating the need for them to think about it. So it's fine if they're making faces like I don't know. That frustration is actually good. Of course, you don't want to give them questions or ask them grammar that's beyond their ability because that will be frustrating. But try to find the balance between letting them figure it out or not. This is why playing games is a great way to practice a grammar point or practice a certain topic because within the construct of a game, there are winners and losers. So if they don't know, they're not going to be upset because that's just inherent in playing a game. And then, of course, give them tasks that will interest them because we want them to want to discover the answer. Also allow reflection time. So when you've read a text or when you've talked about a topic, let them form their own opinions on the topic. So again, Academy Stars gives you some scaffolding, I guess, is the best way to put it. They start with a circle the word you agree with. So they start off with, I think there will, I think there won't be. So they have to think about, well, what do I think? I circle will. It's kind of a low stakes commitment. They're just circling a word. But then they need to write two more sentences based on the text they just read, which is about the future. So it starts with a little bit of circling, getting the idea, and then they're producing full sentences on their own. Even young learners can form opinions. This is a think about it activity for Academy Stars 1. So this is like, 5, 6, 7-year olds. And it's a much more simple, much simpler question. Think and answer, tell the class. Which is your favorite school in the text and why? Second question. Is it the same as your school? How is it different? So the first question is kind of a simple question. They just have to choose one. But the why, then they have to defend their answer. I'm sure I'm going to get a question later, but I'm going to anticipate. If your students, if your young learners are answering in Spanish, I think that's fine. You just repeat, you rephrase it in English. You're just kind of saying it back to them, modeling what you want them to say, right? Talking about scaffolding, you can also, there's another example here from Academy Stars 2, where they have to circle whether the statement is fact or opinion. And then the next question is, what do you think? And they circle yes, no, or not sure. Again, you're presenting it, they're just circling, and then it's giving them the vocabulary, the structure, so that if you then have a discussion, they can say, tablets are good in the classroom, or tablets are not fun, and they have it already written down in front of them. I'm going to give you some other ideas for scaffolding. This is from Academy Stars 3. It's for writing. You can use a mind map, excuse me, a mind map to plan your writing. So it's a story, writing a fictional, in this example, writing a fictional story. You put the title or the topic in the center. In this case, it's a big surprise. And then what details does a story need? When, who, where, and the weather. It was a dark and stormy night. They do some brainstorming about the characters, about when, about where, and then they have that mind map, which then they can use when they write their story. Other scaffolding tools you can use, verbal scaffolding. When you're giving instructions and you see faces that are like, well, then maybe you find a simpler way to say it. Or you paraphrase, which means you say the same thing, but just in different words. Certainly speaking slowly or repeating pupils' answers with the correct pronunciation. Not saying that's wrong, just simply repeating it back to them correctly. These are all methods of verbal scaffolding. Sensory scaffolding. We looked at the picture earlier of the safari, anything with illustrations, videos. There are lots of video options in the Academy Star series. Bringing in real life objects, so not just pictures, but the actual things, and physical activities, TPR. If you're talking about jumping or swimming, actually showing them physically what that means. And finally, another scaffolding category is interactive. So learning from each other, helping the stronger students, helping the weaker students. So having them work in pairs, small groups, having them do interviews, any kind of discussion, or the very popular think, pair, share. You ask a question, they take a minute to think, pair, they discuss with one person, they practice, they share ideas, and finally they share with the rest of the group, and it's less scary because they've already had some time to think what they're going to say, to practice with one person before speaking in front of the whole class. Also, Venn diagrams. This is great when you have to do a compare and contrast. So you have two topics, and what they have in common goes in the center, and then what makes them different goes in the two separate circles. This is called a fishbone graph. It's great when you have a problem and you have the causes, or you have the causes and the effect. So in the fish's head, you write the problem, and then on the bones coming off of it, it looks like an arrow leading to the head. It's the different causes. Another popular scaffolding tool is the KWL chart. Whenever you're introducing a new topic, the K, which stands for know, is what I know. So if the topic is safaris, what do I know? Africa, elephants, scary, lions. I don't know. What do you know already? And then the W stands for want, what I want to know. So questions I have. How much is a safari? What animals are there? Maybe there are animals like meerkats, or will I see gazelles? And then finally, at the end of the unit, at the end of the article, the L column is what I've learned. The L stands for learned. So here's an example talking about the Vikings. And this person apparently knows a lot already because they know they had longboats, they settled in Dublin, they came from Scandinavia, they brought coins to Ireland. This person knows way more than I do about the Vikings, but you can see an example of what they put in each column. You can also do verbal scaffolding with prompts. So in the Academy Stars series, you see lots of these sentence starters, but you can also write this on the board or put it on the wall. I agree with this because I don't understand, dot, dot, dot. Can you please explain, dot, dot, dot. These are prompts. These are sentence starters that your students simply have to finish the sentence, but you're taking some of the cognitive load off of their shoulders. They don't have to think of all, how do I formulate this sentence? You give them the beginning already. Okay, so now moving on, we're going to look at learning to learn. This is a feature that, according to the poll, not many people are using regularly, but I really like it. So one element, well, the first element, graphic grammar, people are using, and then we'll look at learning to learn. So graphic grammar, for those of you who are not familiar, it uses pictures that are color-coded. Blocks are a metaphor for the words in the sentence. Just like you can move blocks physically with your hands, you can move the blocks in the sentence. The idea here is it's showing patterns of grammar. For example, how you reverse the word order when asking a question. So some examples, this is from Academy Stars 1. They put the block in blue when it's affirmative and the block in red where it's negative. You can see this example. I'm not going to spend too much time because people said they know about this. This is from Academy Stars 5, where we're using some auxiliary verbs for the present perfect. How long have you been? I've been. No one has complained. Okay. But my idea is you explain the grammar. You can also watch the video. These graphic grammars come with a video, but then you want to put it into practice. So certainly in the accompanying reading that goes with the unit, find the real examples and then put it into a conversation or role play activity. There are options in the books, but I think it's great if you expand and use your own ideas. So imagine you are teaching present perfect. I want to do a little brainstorming in the chat option. What role play situations could you use with this grammar? When someone says to you, present perfect, how long have you been a dentist? No one has done this. What do you think? What ideas do you have for role play or drama activities?
Okay, so again, the question is on your screen. What role play situations could you use with this grammar? And please write short answers to the question.
Maybe this is too stressful. Maybe it's like the question is too specific. Okay,
Well,
good.
yeah, we're getting great. Do a survey to find out certain experiences that the class has had. Class survey, yeah.
Good.
Can I say something? What jumped into
Please.
my mind? Yeah, when people saying survey was an interview situation.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. A job interview. Yes.
Yeah, job interview is a typical one. Excellent. A new student. Oh, this is a nice idea, Sky. A new student comes to class and we have to get to know him or her. So find
Yes,
out
and someone said,
about, yeah,
have you ever, I mean, for
exactly.
adults, it's a drinking game. For kids, it could be a running around the circle game. If you could say, have you ever eaten sushi? And the students who have
Exactly.
eaten sushi have to run around and find a new chair to sit in. That's a great game.
That's a really nice idea because it's a really popular activity, but you're giving it a twist by you're introducing an element of TPR and there's something that they have to do depending on the
Perfect.
answer
Wait,
that they give. I
Louise,
like
someone
that.
said
Yeah.
Someone said at the doctor's. I love it.
Ah,
Children love
yes.
doctor role plays. The doctor can say, have you had a sore throat? Have you eaten
Yeah.
spicy food? Right?
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I really like this other idea. Play a have you ever game in the form of you are lying. Ooh.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so
Like
we have to
true.
find out the
Is the person
true or
telling the truth or
false.
not? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And also going to the vets. You know, when you talked about the doctor, going to the vet
Yes.
with your
With your
pet,
pet.
and you might have to
Yeah.
answer. Okay, thank you
Someone put
everybody. That's great.
Someone put ask
Yes.
the teacher if they have ever done something. That's risky.
Ah, excellent. And also giving different situations and roles to different students. So some are
Yes.
at the doctor, some are in a restaurant, etc. So that's quite a nice giving them variety. And you could do that as a kind of musical chair. So you do one particular situation. When you finish, then you change and move to a
Yeah.
different. So that would be quite nice. Great. Thank you,
My
everybody.
ideas, my drama ideas were job interview, a reporter and an eyewitness. Like, what have you seen? I imagine there's
Ah,
something happened and the it's like an interview, but more with a news story. I thought
yes.
a grandchild and a grandma, like, tell me what life was like. Like, have you ever used the
Okay,
internet?
that's true. Yes.
I also had an idea. Someone said an exchange. I wrote down an exchange student, and it's their first time in Spain. But someone also said a new student
Yes,
arrives in the class.
exactly. Good
Another
idea.
option, certainly for older students, not for little kids, would be a first date. I thought, first date scenario, asking lots of present perfect. Have you done this? Have you been here? Trying to get information.
Yes, excellent.
Okay, great. So moving on, the learning to learn options in the Academy Stars series. Let me explain briefly what it is. They are techniques, strategies that explore how we learn. It's providing students with a set of strategies and skills to help them learn more effectively. Hopefully, through these strategies, they will become more confident and independent learners. And we're going to look at some examples. So these are sprinkled throughout the whole Academy Stars series. These two examples from Academy Stars 2 are about new vocabulary. So the one at the top, it's when you naturally associate, you put words together naturally, like a word chunk or a collocation. You would say play basketball, play tennis. What else do you play? Play soccer, play football. Whereas do goes with an activity. Do drama, do yoga, do karate, right? Another learning to learn strategy is visualizing words. So here it says, close your eyes, think about a safari park. What can you see? And then write the words, make a list, associating sort of a visual memory. Now, if you want to look even for the youngest students, the 5 and 6-year-olds, you draw a picture around new words to help you remember. So again, providing tools. For older students, this is from Academy Stars 6, it's a bit more complicated and it's about self-reflection. Self-reflection means thinking about your work. If you can identify what you do well and how you can improve, it will help you work out the best ways to progress. Look at a piece of work you have done recently and ask yourself these questions. So it's putting the burden on the student to do some editing, to do some thinking about the work they are doing, to be able to look at their own work with a critical eye. All of these are skills that we want to encourage in our students. So, along the theme of self assessment, independent of the Academy Stars series, I think it's great to have a wall display with questions. So, put them visually on the wall, and they have to answer some questions. Did I check my work? Did I take my time? Did I try my very best? And so, you're encouraging the skills that you want them to have. And so you have the questions visually there on the wall. Other ideas for them to assess themselves. For little kids, you can use emojis. You can just have the smiley face, the frowny face, or the kind of medium face, and you ask a question like, how well did you understand today's topic? Or can you use present perfect? And they just simply choose the face, the emoji that goes with how they feel. The wall display with questions we just saw. Another popular idea is called an exit ticket. So before they can leave the class, they take a card and they have to answer the question on the card, which is related to the topic that you've introduced. Similar to emojis, you can have like a soccer or football game. There's a red card, a yellow card, and a green card. So how well did you understand the topic? They choose a card, and then they pair up. You would match someone who has a green card with someone who has a yellow or a red card and see if they can explain kind of peer teaching. Can they help each other? Another idea is to make an Instagram story of the class, like a 10-second summary. Maybe this is for fast finishers, people who feel very confident they understand the topic of today. And so they do a 10-second story explaining, and of course you can film it if you want to, you don't have to. And finally, make a mind map summarizing the highlights of the lesson. What did we do today? You can write it on the board. They can do it at their desks. If they're at home, they do it at home. But again, writing down, associating what they learned that day. In the Academy Stars 3, there's an example of a checklist. Is your article interesting? Check. Did you organize it in paragraphs? Check. Did you use correct? So it's another example of how they can assess themselves. I'm curious, are these ideas new to you, or are you familiar with these self-assessment tools? So our next poll question, what self-assessment tools do you use? Do you use exit tickets? Do you verbally ask them questions to check understanding? Do you do written checklists like we just saw in the example from Academy Stars? Or do you have them talk with a partner and help each other to explain whatever you've been studying? So the poll is open.
Yes, and people are answering. We'll just give people a couple of seconds to do that. What self-assessment tools do you use? And you've got 4 options: exit tickets, verbal questions, written checklists, and talk with a partner. And it seems at the moment that we've got a majority of approximately 60% saying verbal questions, followed by talk with a partner at about 20%, and written checklists 19%. But it seems that people don't know or haven't used exit tickets, but maybe
Great.
they will
So
after this
I
session.
hope so. That's the idea. Yeah. So see if you can
Excellent.
use some of the other tools like exit tickets or emojis or red card, yellow card, those kind of ideas. But it's good to have them reflect on their own learning. The next category I want to talk about is called motivation. So of course, motivation is an important predictor of learning and achievement. Students who are more motivated to learn persist longer, produce higher quality effort, learn more deeply, and perform better in classes and on standardized tests. So what do you do to motivate your students in your classroom? Please, I'm open to your suggestions. How can we motivate students?
From you. We want to hear from you because really this is a forum, isn't it, Sky, to encourage sharing of ideas. We're,
Yes, yes.
peer to peer. So a
We're
great
on the ground, we're
opportunity
doing the
here.
work.
Exactly. We're the foot soldiers. Exactly. What do you do to motivate students in your classroom? Again, short answers. Please do share your ideas with us now. It's a great opportunity. Oh,
Nice.
lovely. Play music at the beginning of class. Lovely. Yes. So create a lovely, a nice, atmosphere for students. Be excited
Okay.
yourself. How important is that? So your attitude as a teacher is key because it will rub off on your students. Personalizing. Excellent. Yes, a couple of people are saying personalizing, very important to personalize activities and engage students. Positive reinforcement, physical games connected with the topic, have them talk about current issues or daily problems which affect them directly. Lots of praise. Praise so important, isn't it? Praise and positive encouragement for every student after every
Someone
activity.
said class, I like class captain, which is assigning roles,
Oh,
giving them
nice.
responsibility.
Yes, yes, totally, totally. Have a short chat at the beginning of the lesson so they feel comfortable and understand they are listened to. Make it fun for them. Use topics they like and find interesting.
Excellent.
Excellent. Great
So I
ideas.
have a couple ideas. Some we've already just said. Asking about their experiences. You said personalizing it. Playing drama games. Everyone loves games. Do TPR, total physical response. So no one wants to be sitting down for too long. Getting them up and moving around, and giving students a choice. I think these are all ideas, ways we can motivate our students. So use their experiences. This is the Be a Star feature in the Academy Stars series. Every chapter, there's always a question. What have you been doing this week? How does this apply to you, right? Having them comment from their own experience. Drama and role play. There are many opportunities in the series for dialogues, whatever the topic is, thinking of a drama role play situation. Here we have some scaffolding. Let's, how about, shall we, giving them the sentence starters, the prompts. Now, you may think with drama and role play, if you have 10 students in your class and you're going to do 5, and it's up in pairs, 5 times doing the same conversation, the other students are like, oh my God, I'm bored. So a way to get more students involved is something called cooperative speaking. So you have role one and role two. Role one and role two are the actors, but then you get 2 more students involved. Role three is the director, and role four is the reviewer. This way, 4 students are involved, and the director is asking questions, saying, you stand here, here are your props, and the reviewer is giving them an evaluation on their pronunciation, on their acting, could also be giving them suggestions. So it's a way of getting more students involved in what would normally be just a 2-person conversation. So I told you I'm a drama teacher. I love drama games. One popular game, easy to do, is called movie titles. I have come up with a list of invented, I think they're invented. I don't think these are real movies. Invented titles, and your students can either do a scene from the movie or make a trailer. So here I have Alien Invasion, The Barber Shop, The Surprise Party, The People on the Roof, In the Graveyard, Rumors, Volcano, Diva, right? And you could have someone, maybe a stronger student, do the voiceover. In a world where people cut their hair, come to the barber shop. And you can have maybe the weaker students just be miming like, ah, holding their hair or whatever. But a quick activity, you simply have to provide the title, and then they come up with the scene or the trailer. Another game I like is called First Line, Last Line. You give them the first line of the story, you give them the last line, and they, in their pairs or groups, have to figure out how to get from the first line to the last line. So here the first line is, forgive me, and the last line is, are you crazy? And they come up with 3, 4, 5, 10 sentences in the middle. Some suggestions of other lines you can use. I don't smell anything. Hide! I feel dizzy. They're here. You did what? Really short lines, but they're kind of open so they can come up with the situation. Speaking of open, I like things called open scenes. So, help me. I can't. It's 2 short sentences, but the students have to decide where they are, who they are, and what the problem is. So this very general situation could have a lot of different scenarios. I think you can see in my house, one possibility could be someone saying, help me. And then the other character, I can't. Right? And so we know that it's people in their, maybe a couple in their house, and one of them needs to reach something, the other one is reading the newspaper. So that's a simple scene. Another activity is 3-line scenes. So the scene only has 3 sentences, but in those 3 sentences, they have to establish who, where, and what. Let me give you an example. You would give pupils, students, the first line, and then they have 2 more lines to finish the scene. So imagine the first sentence is, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. So that's the first sentence. Possible possible endings could be, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Oh no, have I failed my maths exam? You've failed the whole course. So we know teacher, student in a school. Same first sentence. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. What is it, doctor? Your blood appears to be blue. We know doctor, patient in the doctor's office. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. You always say that after we've been to the pub. I've lost the house keys again. So it's friends or a couple roommates going home and they're outside the door and they don't have the keys. So again, one sentence and they have to finish the scene. So I have an example for you. The first sentence is, hurry up, it's nearly 9 o'clock. How would you finish this scene? Use the chat box. Think, who are they? Where are they? And what is happening?
Excellent. Okay, I love those ideas. I love those scenes, eh?
Thanks.
Finishing. Yeah, no, great. So, yes, how would you finish this then? A says, hurry up. It's nearly 9 o'clock. What does B say? What does A say? In answer. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. Please share your ideas. There isn't a right or wrong answer. That's important, isn't it,
Totally.
Sky?
No pressure. No
Yeah.
pressure.
No. This is encouraging different ideas. Going back to that idea that other opinions, other ideas are important, and what we want to encourage is a diversity of ideas and include everybody in the class. Okay, we've got an answer. We are all going to frizzle. We're all going to frizzle. Oh no,
Okay.
that's the
I'm not
ending.
sure where they are.
No, I'm not either, but yes, maybe it's very cold or something. Okay,
Oh,
Ashley is
I like
saying,
it.
I'm hungry. Where's my dinner? And then A says, then go cook it yourself. Brilliant.
Also, we will
And
miss
we
the train. Yes, like why? It could also be 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're, hurry up, you're late. I don't want to go to school, right?
exactly. We've got a few more. Let me see. The fight. Oh, it's going so quick. Jean Daddy's saying the flight closes in 15 minutes, and then you always have leave the house the last minute. Oh,
Someone
that's
wrote a
happened to
scary
me.
one about the coffins.
Oh, where's that? Where's that? What does it
It
say?
says, what? They always come out of the coffins at 9. I know, and we're still far from home. That's a scary one.
I love that. But that's original.
Yeah,
Excellent. I can't find my coat, Mum. And Mum says, again, I'm sure it is in your room as every single day. Oh, here we
perfect.
go
These are
again.
great ideas. I'm going to
Excellent.
keep going just because I
Thank
want to make
you.
sure we get to the rest. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody.
So another idea, I talked in the beginning about bringing in real objects. So I have this game, this activity where you don't have to bring in umbrellas. You can just use a newspaper to illustrate the weather. So I have a newspaper, and if you say it's sunny, you're like blocking from the sun, or it's hot, and you can use the newspaper to fan. It's windy, and the newspaper is blowing your face. Just an idea to bring in recycled materials and use them in class in a dramatic way. For people doing online learning, virtual learning, a great total physical response TPR activity is an indoor scavenger hunt. I found this on Pinterest, but there are lots of lists that you tell your students, go find a fork, go find 3 things that are red or whatever, and they have to run around and come back and show you, show the camera. The last topic I want to look at is reading skills. It's important that you do activities pre-reading, while reading, and post-reading. So when you're pre-reading, we talked about earlier looking at the photos, looking at the headings, looking at any of the visual clues. You also want to give them a reason to read. You're trying to encourage interest, create expectations. They're going to learn something. You want them to want to read the article. And pre-reading is always trying to stimulate any prior knowledge of the topic. What do you already know? What vocabulary can you anticipate? This way you're reducing the cognitive load when they get to the actual text. An activity while reading, this is a story called What's That Noise? It's an activity where when you say a word, the students make a sound effect. So choral reading with sound effects. This story, lots of times you hear the word mouse and house. There are lots of adjectives like scared, worried, terrible noise, brave. And then group 3, they have to make a sound for upstairs or downstairs or violin. So mouse, obviously everyone's going to go squeak, 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 squeak. House could be the door. And then as you're reading the story, you, the teacher, you pause and let the students do the sound effects. I've just chosen a random page of the story. It would be, one day, Merlin and Mina hear a terrible noise. And group 2 is like, ah! They run out of their mouse, squeak, 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 house. They are very scared. Ah! Or whatever the sound effect is for the word scared. So it's a way of getting them involved while you're reading. Another common activity while reading a story is what happens next. So you read part of the story, then you stop and ask them to predict based on the picture, based on the beginning of the story, what is going to happen. It's a great skill that we can teach them. And post-reading questions. So in Academy Stars, there's 2 different kinds of questions, 2 different categories. One is the question where they have to search and find very specific information in the text. Where was Sue naughty? Who teaches Sue how to be a good citizen? They're going through and finding the specific information. The other kind of question is the questions that stimulate higher level thinking. Again, these questions like why, how, what does Sandy learn? What did you find most interesting? Would you like to visit the island? Why or why not? Getting them to reflect and integrate what they've read with what they feel themselves. All right, that is my talk. We have 5-10 minutes for any questions, right, Louise?
Fantastic. Yes, we do. And again, this window will appear on your screen, so please do send in any questions that you have to Sky or any comments you would like to make about the talk. I just want to say, Sky, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. You've shared an awful lot of ideas. I mean, you've explained to us the why, but you've given us a lot of really practical ideas that are, from what I have seen, are quite easy to set up, don't require so
Thanks.
much preparation. I love the idea of, I know I myself as a teacher in the past have used the activity Spot the Difference, but I didn't know about or I hadn't considered the possibility of using the kids. So kids having them all kind of cover their faces and then um, do something, I don't know, take a ring off their finger or watch off their wrist or put a scarf around their neck or something. So, and having
Exactly.
students identify differences. So using the students more as a resource, fantastic. And that way personalize and engage them and motivate them more. The exit tickets as well, great idea. The movie titles, the first line, the last line, the open scenes, the line scenes. I mean, these are, I mean, obviously as a theatre expert, as a director, as an actor, you're very much aware, no, of how these activities, well, they engage all levels, don't they, and all ages, but we adjust them to the age and the level. But how motivating is that? And it's kind of, it's this idea that they're learning without actually fully realizing it, while
Yeah,
they're
and it's a
engaged
way
in these
when you,
activities.
if you present the grammar or read a text, it's a lot of book work, and so you also want to mix it up with a an activity based on the book, but where they're communicating and using the language.
Exactly, exactly, totally. And this is so important. And also, you can adjust it, as you say, because your premise at the beginning was adjust up and down. So all of these activities, in most of them, can be adjusted according to the level, and that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. They're very flexible. Okay, any comments? Well, people are saying thank you very much. Um, would you mind preparing a group of these marvelous webinars in a cloud and share with us? They will be very well. Actually, the recording of this event will be available on our website on as a user of Macmillan courses and in particular Academy Stars. This will be available on Advantage. All of you as users have access to this service, and there's a whole range of really interesting webinars on a whole range of topics, from young learners to teens to adults, primary age, secondary age, upper secondary, and adults on our website. From, well, we've been doing online events now for about 6 years, so there's a whole range of materials there, a whole range of webinars. Please do avail of them. And Ashley is asking, what ages are these books recommended for? Well, they're recommended for from 6 to 11 years old. Academy Stars is a primary age course book that goes from 6 years of age, from primary one right up to primary six, 11 years of age. And feeling motivated to use the series, do you have a realia list to use for each book? Well, in the teacher's book, you do have obviously notes about how to use the course, how to set up the activities, and if realia are needed, that's in there as well. And what do you suggest could be done with shy students or when students don't feel like participating? Sky, would
Yeah,
you like to give some
yes,
pointers?
I can field that one. So I think that for if they're super duper shy, I never want to force them to do it because that can almost backfire. I would say do activities, mime activities, mimika, mime, and have the whole group do it. You have to sort of like break them in slowly. Do activities with the whole group. Everyone's doing it. No one is looking at just that one shy person. And then if you start working in smaller groups, and if the person's like, no, I don't want to, I don't force it. I'm never like, no, you have to. So I would say large group activities, and if you're doing things in pairs, give them a role which is less stressful.
Great. Yes. So differentiating really, isn't it? Attending to the different types of students we have in the class. That's great. And somebody else has, oh, a suggestion from Christina. Thank you, Christina. Similar to what you suggested about adding roles, director, reviewer, etc., for Act Out, would you do something similar with writing sections? I mean, would you exchange writings and they comment on context, language, etc.?
It's
I would say
great.
yes, absolutely. So a
Yeah.
reviewer, a spell checker, okay,
Yes.
a content,
Grammar police.
um, a, yeah, somebody check that the structure. I mean, yes, you could definitely, absolutely, the same idea can be applied. Um, Another person is saying, Sky, you've given a great example of how to communicate with passion. Now it's up to us to think about how to put some of these new ideas to work in our classes. Excellent. So you've piqued people's interest and you've given people a lot of really good ideas. So I think now, yes, the question is to go away and put them into practice. Reading, listening, and speaking elements in the course book exams for Academy Stars coming up. Well, there are sections for exam preparation. There are activities which are exam related, external exam related, such as the Cambridge exams. So please do look at those. Um, Thank you very much for your help. Thank you for being here with us and participating. Another comment. It was great. Thank you so much. What would you recommend to do when you're eager to put all these ideas into practice, but you fight against time to see all the course contents? Yes, it's true. We are limited by contact hours that we have with students. So I would suggest, I don't know what you think, Sky, but you need to be selective, don't you, at the end of the day?
Exactly. I would say pick
But
and choose. Don't feel like you have to do every activity in the book. I think books often provide a lot of material that it's not necessary to do everything. So choose your favorites, but make sure you make time. A lot of these games that I've suggested can only take 5 or 10 minutes. So pick and choose.
exactly, exactly. And provide variety over time because a year long course is a long time, so it is good to, I mean, I think with the young learners, yes, we need routine, but at the same time we need variety, so some balance between those two. And another question, can we have more material to use with students on the platform called we're only few, and can we use more ideas as you were presenting? Yes, I mean the ideas, as Sky has presented, the ideas are quite varied. Um, the We have material, if we have a course book, we have certain material that we want to use, but the way in which we do that is up to us. There are lots of activities in the teacher's book, um, mm, but also the ideas that Sky has put forward today, perhaps you could incorporate those into your classes, and we would love to hear from you. If you want to send feedback on that, please do. And Ashley is saying, do you think this material alone is enough for learning and exam preparation? That all depends, I think, Ashley, on your students and on the level, on what kind of exams you're preparing for. But certainly, I think the important thing is, apart from exam preparation, is that we ensure our students are learning and that they can do something real with the language. In terms of exam preparation, there is exam preparation material with Academy Stars. Obviously, if they're preparing for the Cambridge exams, there are practice exams that you can get hold of.
Louise,
There's a
if I
lot of
can
material online.
interrupt.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I didn't touch on exam prep in this talk, but every couple of units in Academy Stars, there's a review chapter which has
Yeah,
questions very similar to the Cambridge Young Learners exam. So I didn't talk about it in my
exactly.
talk, but the books do provide similar type questions.
Exactly, exactly. And on top of that, there, Cambridge ESOL, the assessment board, they provide materials as well for practicing, preparing for the exams. Okay, I think that's it in terms of questions and comments. That was lovely. It was great to hear from. I know there are a couple of questions. Sorry, Sky, there's one more. Is there any specific exercise you use to specifically practice and improve pronunciation? Maybe activities such as tongue twisters? What do you think?
Yes, tongue twisters are great. Also in the activity like first line, last line, you can tailor the sentences you're using to include words that have the sounds you want to practice. So whether it be a vowel sound or a consonant sound or the irregular past of verbs, the ed, right? You just put those words in the dialogue, and so they're practicing. They don't even know that that's why you've put those words there, but you're incorporating them subtly into the drama scripts.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, fantastic. I think that's it. Sky, thank you so much. It's been
You're
a real
welcome.
pleasure. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Again, very practical, but very inspiring and very creative. And this element of creativity, personalizing, involving the students is so key, isn't it, to making our classes engaging, fun for the students and for ourselves as well. So I think you've achieved that very clearly in this session, that we can do this. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of the day, a great rest of the week. And I also wish you all the very best, the best possible finish to this course. Despite the hardships that we've all experienced over the last year, you've done a great job. And I'm sure your students and the parents of your students are really appreciate the tremendous work that you've done this year. So thank you, and see you all again, hopefully next year. Bye.